National will sell.
The member's time has expired. Oh, Phil Twyford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Labor opposes this appropriation estimates bill. Yes, it's true. Yes, it's true. We are opposing this hopeless nitpicking, penny-pinching budget. Mr. Speaker, the poor members on the other side of the House have been subject to all sorts of criticism over the last few days. They've upset the paper boys, they've upset aspiring postgraduate students, they've upset elderly people looking at going into residential care, and worse than that, they've been criticised and lambasted by every respectable financial and economic commentator in this country. But, sir, there's one group that the pundits forgot. There's one set of organisations who are the beneficiaries of this budget, and they have not been given the recognition that they deserve. And, sir, that group is West Australian mining companies. They are thrilled by this budget. They've never seen a better budget from a New Zealand government. And the West Australian mining companies are over here recruiting as we speak, holding public meetings in places like Kaitaia and Kaikohe. The public meetings are overflowing with skilled New Zealand workers looking to go and work in the West Australian desert, sir, and gold mines and so on. And this budget is the best thing that's ever happened to them, because the flow of skilled workers across the Tasman to West Australian mines will be speeded, sir, will be speeded by this national budget. It is, as we've been saying, sir, a zero ideas budget. And what's amazing about it is that for 4 budgets in a row now, Bill English has stepped up on budget day and made the most remarkable promises about economic growth and about job growth. He's consistently failed to deliver year after year. He's made claims that Treasury have put into his hands of so many jobs being created, so much economic growth, and every year he has failed to deliver. Last year he promised 4% growth, and in this budget he scaled that down to 2.6%. Last week he said exports were rising, whereas the House now knows that statistics show exports fell by almost 17% last year. Last year he promised growth in real wages, and this year we've seen it peak at just 1.6% and then decline. So I represent the people of Te Atatu in this House, and we want jobs and we want growth in West Auckland. And this government, members on that side of the House, have offered absolutely nothing to the people of my electorate in terms of hope that this economy will get back into growth, and nothing to make them believe that there's any realistic prospect of more jobs being created. West Auckland is the happy home, sir, of a boat building industry that's been very successful in recent years, and yet under this government's economic stewardship, we've seen one of the major super yacht builders internationally, sir, has lost a major contract, and it led to 50 workers being made redundant. 50 workers. And since then, we've seen another boat builder gone into receivership. The owners and managers of that business have gone off to Australia. Why? Because under this government, the exchange rate punishes exporters, and they refused, on that side of the House, sir, to do anything about it. Well, Labor has produced a very clear and credible alternative budget over the last few days, and we've heard my colleague David Parker laying out what Labor would do. We would, sir, introduce pro-growth tax reform that not only makes everyone pay their fair share in tax, sir, but would also encourage more productive investment, and I'm talking about the capital gains tax. We would increase savings through a universal KiwiSaver scheme. We would re-establish the research and development tax credit scheme that National has decimated over the last few years. And perhaps most importantly, sir, we would adjust monetary policy so that it actually takes into account the need for jobs and exports and overall economic development. But no, National don't want to hear any of that. What have they given the nation in the last few days? A penny-pinching, pathetic, beige budget that does nothing to address the big structural challenges facing our economy. I want to talk about school class sizes, because this is one of the most interesting aspects of this budget, sir. John Key, when asked on Friday, I think it was, how many schools would be affected by the government's change to class sizes, he said 1 or 2 schools would be affected. Well, what do we know, sir? Now we know that every intermediate school in the country is going to be affected by job cuts, and that class sizes are going to go up dramatically. In my suburb of my electorate, sir, of Te Atatu, 3 intermediate schools. One of them was set to lose 8 teachers. The other 2 were set to lose 6 teachers each. They've been distraught over the weekend. They've been absolutely distraught. And the Minister comes down to the House today and says no more than 2 teachers will be lost by any intermediate school. 2 teachers, and they make that claim just for the next 3 years. Well, I've got news for the Minister. One of the intermediate schools just down the road from where I live has 20 teachers. If they're going to lose 2 teachers, as the Minister seems to be saying, that is a 10% reduction in their staffing. A 10% reduction in their staffing, and that is an outrage, sir. And after the next 3 years, what's going to happen? Will the rest of the job cuts come through? That's my question, and I ask members on that side of the House to get up and explain that policy. There is a deep, dark secret in this budget, sir, and while the government's been nickel and diming postgraduate students, the elderly, the paper boys, the big, deep, dark secret, sir, is that national spending on its roads of national significance is bloated and out of control. Billions of dollars under this budget continue to be misspent. That's low-value spending by the government's own data. Motorway projects handpicked by Stephen Joyce when he was the Minister of Transport, most of them even before any kind of cost-benefit analysis had been done about the economic value of those projects. It's a huge amount of money, $14 billion over the next 10 years, poured down a rat hole in many cases, sir. Poor value expenditure. And when this Finance Minister was asked in the House recently about that, the best he could say was that, well, we campaigned on it and we won the election, and that's why we're going to continue doing it. Well, that's an extraordinary thing for a Finance Minister to say, to justify billions of dollars of expenditure on poor value, gold-plated motorway projects, and when he's asked to explain it in the House, the best he can come up with is that we campaigned on it and we won an election. At a time of austerity, when everybody else in the country is being asked to pull their belt in a notch, Jerry Brownlee's bloated roads of national significance are out there stealing the lunch of every other category of transport spending. From the far north to Southland, sir, every local council is screaming that they don't have enough money to maintain their roads. Local roads are being squeezed of the resources so that they can be properly repaired. Milk tankers and logging trucks are tearing up those roads, and national members opposite who represent rural electorates will be very aware that their councils simply don't have the money because that roads of national significance have been gobbling up all of the budget. State highway projects, if you're not in a road of national significance, there is a moratorium on new state highway projects around the country. It's virtually impossible to get a new state highway project done unless it's a road of national significance, unless Stephen Joyce has personally handpicked it. I want to finish, sir, on what is the crowning glory of National's economic plan under this budget. And I'm talking, of course, about asset sales. And I want to note one particular thing that I think was one of the most depressing aspects of National's budget last week, and that is the so-called Future Investment Fund. National is selling off assets that the mums and dads of New Zealand already own, that deliver a damn good dividend to the New Zealand taxpayer every year. They're selling them off, and what are they going to do with the proceeds? They're going to put them into a fund, a future investment fund that Bill English conceded last week is a notional fund. So they're selling real assets that we and our forebears sweated blood to build, and they're going to put the proceeds into a notional fund KPMG, the accountancy firm, criticised the Future Investment Fund, sir, for merely using the cash to fund existing commitments, and said that the fund was for things that the government had already committed to. So that is a sham, and that is why we oppose this government's budget.
David Bennett.